Hey everybody, how's it going? I'm Sethum and welcome back to another video guide for Ark Survival Evolved. Today in this video, folks, I am going to be showing you how to tame the Chalicotherium. So if you guys enjoyed this video and find it useful and informative, please don't forget to support me and the channel by hitting that like button, subscribe to the channel if you're new and haven't already for more similar content from myself. And if you have just subscribed, why not check out some of my other videos and guides here on this channel, and don't forget to hit that bell icon so that you get notified when I upload new videos and content to the channel. Also, for those interested, you can always find me on the Sethtopia Discord. Links to this, of course, you can find down below in the video description, as well as in a pinned comment from myself. So with that being said and done, the Chalicotherium is more or less a passive creature, and it becomes aggressive when you get too close to it. It is also a creature that has a passive taming technique, but if again you get too close to it, you will aggro it and it will attack you. It does have a attack that does a decent amount of knockback, so if you are up a hill or a cliff, it can knock you off of that, so do bear that in mind. For this, of course, I will be using a trap, which I will show you how to build later on. In terms of riding this creature, you will need to craft a saddle, and it does like the beer jar as kibble. So obviously, as it is a passive tame, you will have to place it in your last inventory slot and then walk up to it and feed it the beer jar. At level 36, you will be able to craft the beer barrel, and to make the beer, you'll need to place in berries and thatch and wait for it to happen. Obviously, the beer will have to be irrigated. This is what you will need for the saddle, and it can be crafted at level 42. Obviously, for the purposes of riding this creature, you will need a saddle. So let's get into building the trap. And with that being said and done, I'm going to choose a fairly flat surface. There is a Chalicotherium behind me, which I will pull into the trap. Now, in order to do that, I will use a long-range weapon and then kite it into the trap. So what you want to do is you want to set down a 2x2 foundation like I am going to do here. So it's going to end up being a square. With that done, you will want to then next place the stone door frames. I do recommend using stone as a material just so it does not take damage, but you can of course also use the wooden structures, as it should not take very much damage just due to the fact that the Chalicotherium is a passive tame. Of course, do bear in mind you may end up aggroing it, and so therefore the Chalicotherium may end up hitting the structures that you place down. So for that reason, stone is better than wood, but it is not an aggressive tame, so it should not be focused on your trap for too long. I'm also going to be placing down some ramps from the angle from where I will be kiting the Chalicotherium into the trap. And as always, do make sure that there are no hostile creatures around you when you are kiting and taming this creature, as it may complicate the situation. There are creatures in the game that will aggro onto the Chalicotherium. As it is a passive tame, of course, when the Chalicotherium is attacking something, you cannot feed it its preferred kibble, in this case the beer jar. And as you can see, I have of course used the tranq dart to kite it into the trap. I'm going to wait for it to come here. It will hit me a couple of times, but that's good because it will follow me into the trap. The Chalicotherium does have a tendency to focus on the ramps, so you will need to get hit a couple of times. Once it is into the trap, what I do recommend that you do is that you either demolish or pick up the ramps, depending on how quickly you did this. But by removing the ramps, other creatures cannot get into the trap. So obviously for this you will need the ghillie armor, but I will show you what happens if you try and do it without the ghillie armor. You can get fairly close to it to the point where you will get the prompt to feed it, but the moment you get too close to it, it will instantly aggro on you. Now, if it does aggro on you with the ghillie armor, what you will need to do is either use a land mount or a flyer. For the purposes of this video, I will be using my wyvern, which is a flyer, and you want to fly out of render distance, wait there for a couple of seconds, then come back into the render distance and try again. Now, without ghillie armor, you have a higher chance of aggroing the Chalicotherium than with the ghillie armor, which is what I'm trying to show here. And so you may end up having to do this very often. Now, this is alright if you're doing it for the first feed, but after that it will want its kibble fairly quick, and so you do run the risk of losing taming effectiveness. Now, from what I've seen at the moment, it does not seem to lose very much taming effectiveness, but it may just be a bug, it may just be something to do with the servers, but do bear that in mind. So we'll just land right here for now. And I'm going to attempt that again. Now with the ghillie suit, you do want to crouch as well. And you also want to use the stone doorways as a barrier between you and the Chalicotherium, just in case you do get hit. I'm going to try and do this without any armor on me, as it does annoy me when I'm trying to jump and if I have the tech armor on. So as you can see, it did hit me from quite a distance. It does do some knockback. I have aggroed it again. Whilst it is aggroed, I cannot feed it its beer jars. On the next one, I will put on the ghillie suit so that you can see how close I can get to it without aggroing it. Obviously, I am going to be crouching whilst I'm doing that so that I can get very close to it. Let's just go a bit higher, wait for a couple of seconds so I cannot see the trap or the Chalicotherium. Very important detail here. You don't want to see either of them. That's how you'll know you are far enough from the trap. Sometimes the trap will despawn, but the creature will still be down below, so that means you're still not far enough. You might just want to fly a bit further. As I'm going down, you can see the Chalicotherium is just doing its own thing. Now, the reason you want to use a trap for the Chalicotherium is because it does wander around quite a bit, and it does also have several creatures that will attack it. So by blocking it in this honeycomb pattern trap that I've designed here, it's pretty much restricted to one part of the trap. It does want to wander around, but it cannot get anywhere, and you can use the doorways to maneuver around. As you can see, I can get fairly close to it without aggroing the Chalicotherium, and before you saw that I could get close to it. It did give me the prompt, but then it immediately aggroed onto me. As with all passive tames, between the first and second feed with the Chalicotherium, you'll have to wait quite a bit of time, and in my case it took about 10 to 12 minutes before I could give it its second feed. So do bear that in mind. Arm yourself with patience, as it will take some time. After the second feed, it should want its next feed quite regular, so you can sneak up to it and check on its feeding status, and when it's ready it will give you the prompt. So I'm going to show you how quickly it will want to consume the next beer jar. And as you saw there, I can walk quite close to it, and there it goes. It wants the next beer jar. There is this rhino that is wandering around here. Now, in terms of abilities, the Chalicotherium is pretty much similar to the rock elemental, and it was pretty much introduced before the rock elemental, if my memory serves me correct, and of course that means it does throw a rock. So it does not throw it as far as the rock elemental does, and it does not have that much HP, but you can use it as a tower. Now, I'm not sure if you can set it to automatically attack things from a distance, but you can mount it and use it to throw rocks. It does do quite a decent amount with the rock throw, and of course it can also be used to gather berries and fibers. For this, of course, most people will not want it, as there are other creatures that are better at doing the job of gathering, but it is nonetheless a creature that can be tamed, so I am going to introduce it into my series of guides with regards to how to tame creatures in the game. Something's going on there, so I'm going to need to get rid of the wolves. As you can see, things do tend to spawn and creep up on you, so always be prepared just in case. It looks like that problem sorted itself out, so good for me. Now, I do want to position myself back into the trap to feed it again another beer jar, but I also want my wyvern close to me and out of the way. So nearly halfway, as you can see, it's not lost any taming effectiveness. It does not seem to lose anything as it gets fed. I haven't really played around with it. I know that, as far as I can remember, when this creature was first introduced, it did use to lose taming effectiveness. Some creatures in the game now seem not to lose taming effectiveness, so this may be one of the creatures that has had that change made to it, whether deliberate or unintentional, I don't know. I don't go taming Chalicotheriums very often. I'm only doing it for the purposes of this guide, so do bear that in mind. On a server with 1 times taming speed, a 150 Chalicotherium will require somewhere around 37 beer jars. I recommend having 40 just in case, and don't forget that the beer jars do weigh quite a bit. Also very important to note here is the fact that the beer jars do not spoil, so there is an advantage to that as well. So I'm going to keep walking up to it and checking on its hunger. It does want another beer jar, so I think it should want another 2, maybe 3 by then it should finish. Now, I could have just cut to the end, but I wanted to show people how quickly these things want to be fed. Obviously, I have 2 times the taming speed on my server, so it will require less beer jars for it to fully tame. But as you can see, this will be the rate at which it will want its next feed, as it is set to the exact same hunger rate as the official servers. So with that being said and done, it will take you some time. The longest one will be the distance between the first and the second feed, as I said, it took me somewhere, roughly speaking, around maybe 10 to 12 minutes before it wanted its second feed. After that, things tend to go quite quickly, and the benefit of using a trap is, as you can see, it cannot wander into danger, and you can kind of easily keep the area around the Chalicotherium fairly clear. If you do need to clear out any hostile creatures, you can do so without actually having the Chalicotherium get in the way. Also, if you want, you can demolish the rest of the trap and leave the one foundation with the door frames around it, should you choose to, but I prefer to have all of it until the Chalicotherium is fully tamed, as of course it can offer me some protection from creatures that I may not necessarily spot from a distance. So there are some benefits to that. Also, after you have finished taming the Chalicotherium, make sure that you remove the trap, as it will affect the spawn of resources and creatures in the area, and some other people may want to use the area to tame a creature or build a trap. It's just good practice, and I want to encourage that, as a lot of servers, on official servers especially, don't really seem to take that into consideration. Now, of course, I do understand that there is a competitive side to the game, and a lot of people want to own as much territory, but still, you know, there are other people there that want to play and enjoy the game, and I always think that it's nice to be considerate. So I believe this should be its last feed. Only time will tell. We'll just have to wait. It might want another one, but I think this should pretty much be the last beer jar that it's going to want. And as you saw there, I got really close to it. It did not aggro on me, and that is why you want to be using a ghillie suit. A ghillie suit can be crafted quite early on in the game. So I'm going to show you the Chalicotherium's abilities. This is the rock throw, and you can aim it higher as well. But as you can see, it does also gather berries and the seeds. I did say earlier on that it gathers fibers, but it does not. I do apologize for that mistake. It does only gather berries. Obviously, there are creatures in the game that harvest better than that, and you can, to some level, aim where the rock is going to get thrown, but not as good as with the rock elemental. So I'm going to go to the side of the cliff and throw another one just to show you the kind of height that you can get on the Chalicotherium's rock throw. It's okay, but not that great, but of course you can use this as a ballistic weapon against fortifications. Of course, the rock elemental is far superior to the Chalicotherium, as it has a lot more HP and of course a better armor, and that is of course will take reduced damage, so it can soak up quite a lot of damage. That is it for this video, folks. I do hope that you have enjoyed it and found it useful and informative. If you have, please do not forget to support me on the channel by hitting that like button. Subscribe to the channel if you're new and haven't already for more similar content from myself. And if you have just subscribed, why not check out some of my other videos and guides here on this channel? Who knows, you might just enjoy them. And don't forget to hit that bell icon so that you get notified when I upload new videos and content to the channel. Also, for those interested, you can always find me on the Sethtopia Discord. Links to this, of course, you can find down below in the video's description, as well as in a pinned comment from myself. Until next time, stay safe, folks.